Hello everyone. So this is the introductory video to the Bekonix software. This is just going to be a quick video to get you up and running on some of the features of the software and so you can start creating your projects. So first off, make sure that your board is plugged into a power source. It doesn't need to be plugged into your computer because it'll transfer through Bluetooth, but it does need to have power. If you have trouble setting up your board, please refer to our instructions document to help you get your project up and going on the hardware side. So once your board is plugged in and your LEDs are arranged in the pattern that you want to use them in your project, now you can go and come to the software. Once you open up the Bekonix software, you want to make sure that your device is selected so that we can work on it. So come to the right hand side, you'll see this choose device option. You click on that drop down, it will pop up with the boards that are available. Choose your board, which should be MF Beta, and the board is now selected. If for some reason you need to change the settings, there's this little gear icon over on the right hand side. If you select that, this will open up the settings for the board. So in your settings, they should all be already preset for you, but just in case, make sure that your LED types are WS type 2, orders GRB, pin 12, and your number of LEDs. Now the number of LEDs is set here. It can be more than what you have, but it cannot be less. So if you have more LEDs in your project than what is here, you need to adjust that number. But if you have less, it's fine. You can still leave it. But it does need to be changed here and in one other place that I'll show later. Here, you just set the number, whatever number of LEDs you have. Once you set it, click out. You'll see that this Apply Changes button went from gray to orange. So you just need to make sure you click that, and then you're good to go. So once you're done, you can close that, and you can see that our board is ready to go. So now we need to create our project. So if you come to the little plus here on the top left-hand side, this will create our new project. Once you click on New Project, it will automatically open into your Components page. So the order of events usually for using the software is you want to add all your components and draw them in, then figure out what controls you want them to do. So first I'm going to show you how to add your components. So in your component window, you have your drawing section. Then you'll have all your drawing tools. There's upload image, cropped, and sizing tools. You don't really need to worry about those too much right now. You have your selection tool, your draw, your splice, single LED, grid, circle LEDs. You don't really need to worry about those ones right now, but if you do eventually want to play around with the different kinds of LEDs with the board, then you can use this to draw them. You also have inserting splice tool, as well as the multi-selection tool, and then delete. So now that you are familiar with your tools, let's start drawing some LEDs. So first I'm going to hit the draw tool. Once you have selected the draw tool, then you just draw the LEDs begin drawing your splices. So I have three 10 LED strips, and I'm going to draw them in the pattern that I have. And first I'm going to draw the first strip, which has 10, and then I'm going to go to my splice. So if I click Create Splice, now as soon as I'm finished creating splice, I can immediately begin and I'll start drawing my next section. So as soon as I click, you can see that it starts drawing my next section. So I don't need to do anything else after I've clicked splice, I just begin drawing again. And now I can see my two LEDs and I can see how my wires are connecting them. I can hit splice again and draw my third to 10. And there we go. So I have my three strips here and they're drawn in the pattern that I have them in front of me. So once you have those drawn, then you can move on with your project. You may notice that these tools are missing when you first start. If that's the case, then all you have to do, so if I delete all these, they might go, they don't. But if they did this, if they were gone, there's a small glitch, and all you have to do to get them is grab any of these components, which if you are seeing different boards here, it's just in the drop-down menu with your components. You have to choose LEDs. Once you have LEDs, then you can just click and drag a string of LEDs on, and your tools should appear. But that's if you do not have those. So I'm just going to make sure that this is in the same order that I had before. All right, so now that we're good to go, we can go into our controls now. So in our controls, it gives us a preview of what our LEDs look like. And we have our events track, which is where we add what we want the LEDs to do. And you also have an inputs track, which you can make the output react based on the input, but we won't get into that in this video. You have your play, pause, and skip buttons over here, so you can play through what is currently in the track, and you can pause it. You can also see over on the far left here that there is a preview project on device. If you click this, then it will send your project to your device and it will play out on your physical LEDs, and you can see how it's going there. And then the pause is to pause that. So if let's make our lights do something. So first I'm going to go to chases and curls because those are fun. And I'm going to do this back and forth. And I'm just going to click and drag it and add it to my output track. So now if I play this here, we can see on the preview what it'll kind of look like. And if you want to get a better idea of what this will actually look like, you can say play on device and it will upload to the device and it should begin playing on your actual projects. Now if we want to change this or continue working, make sure that you pause what's happening on your device, because it can do some funky things if it's still playing while trying to upload new features. So just make sure you pause that. Once you pause it, then you can start changing around with these guys. Now, you can have multiple tracks as well. You don't have to do just this one thing. You can go to these three dots in your output, and you can say add track. And in this track, we can now have a different effect on top of the other effect. So let's say I wanted to add in a solid color. So I'm going to choose just a solid color here. And I'm going to make it, I can change the time of how long I want, how short or how long I want this to play for. I'm going to say 7 seconds, or not. And I can also choose with these arrows here some different features like fading and how gradual you want the fading to go in and out, like how fast. So those are some cool things you can do with those. Now let's say I have this solid blue, but I wanted to do something fun on top of it. So I'm going to do a sparkle, and I'm going to add a, let's say red and white sparkle, and I'm going to put this on top. Now I can change this so that it matches the length. So now these two effects will run at the same time. So if I say play, you can see here in the device that it's all blue, but it's flickering that red and white sparkle on top, which is pretty neat. This is all a lot of coding done in a very short amount of time. Now you can also change the properties of each of these tracks as well. So let's say I want to change the properties of this chase and crawl. So you can do this two ways. You can just click on properties and it'll open up that panel, or you can just double click on the segment and then it will open it up for you. So you can change a whole bunch of different features in here, including brightness, position, transitions, output controls, color, all of that. So I won't go through everything, but please explore all the fun stuff in here. And you can see here that we can choose, I'm going to show you how to choose even color,
just click on the one that you have, and you can use the slider bar to change your color, or you can directly change the RGB color codes, and you can use the hex codes as well. So once you've changed your color, just close it and it will stay set, and good to go. Another really fun property to play around with is the direction. So sequential will follow the order that I drew these LEDs in, but we can also change it from like angular, circular, or through X and Y. So let's try a Y direction and see how that plays. So you can see here, instead of chasing this way, we're now going back and forth this way, which is really cool and would be very difficult to do in code, but we can do it in mere seconds here. So once you have this all set to how you like, then you can now you can save it and upload it to your device. Okay, so now that we have our project on our device and we like how it's looking, let's say that we want to now actually make sure it's on our device. So right now we can't, we are testing on the device, but the project is not actually on there. First we need to save our project. So I'm just going to save my project. There we go, save changes. I'm going to choose the kit that I want, or the folder that I want to put it in. I'm just going to call this test2 and hit save. So my test should now be saved. If I go back to my project, so in the left-hand corner here, go back to my main projects folder, and I have my board here. So I need to select the project that I just created and move it onto my device. So now it is actually on the device, and you can access it through your phone. On your phone, you can, if you download the app, you can change through all of your projects that you want. You'll see that this one has a little star. It's because this is the one that's set to play on start. You can change it to be our new project by just clicking on the 3 dots and choose play on start. So this means as soon as the board gets plugged in, this project will start playing. And that's it for the basics. I want to show you one more interesting feature that you can do in the software. So what you can do is, if we go back to our project, a cool thing that we can do is create groups. Okay, so once we're back into our components page, we can now select the LEDs that we want and have them grouped into their own individual groups, and they can do separate things. So we can have one group doing something and another group doing something completely else. So for example, if you're doing a jacket and you want one slave to do something and another slave to do something completely different, this is an easy way to do that. So how you do that is you come to these 3 dots. You'll see in your outputs, this is one group. This is the group that we had, the single first default group. It shows all the LEDs in this small picture, and it shows the 2 tracks that we created earlier. If you click on the 3 dots, you'll see that we can add new groups. So I'm going to say add a new group above. You can also choose to rename your groups so that you know which one's which. So I'm just going to call this top group right now. So once you have your group named, now we need to add some LEDs into it. So in here you should see all of your tools. If you don't, just click on the draw tool and they will all pop back up again. What we want is this one, the selection tool. So if I click on this, and I can just click and drag and choose whatever LEDs I want, as many or as little as I want. Let's say I want to do these top 15. I'm just going to select them, and once I have them selected, I want to single click onto the number of LEDs that are selected and choose which group it goes into. So I'm going to say that this goes into my new group, that top group, and then I can now go back and change up what these these LEDs are doing different than the others. So I just go back to my control. And in my control, now I can see that I have my top group, and I have a single track, and it has its own track, and then there's the original tracks that we were working with before. So in here, let's say I want this one to be a gradient. Let's see that. So I'll just take this gradient and add it in to this track.
and I can make it as long as I want. I can also add tracks just like before, so if I wanted to have another effect on top of this one, let's do a different sparkle. A slow twinkle. Just put this on top. We can make it as long as we want. And then now when we play, you'll see that the bottom half is doing the original one that we had before, minus that track because it went somewhere else. And then this one has the slow twinkle new gradient that we have added before. So that's how you do groups. If you want to make sure that this is on your device, make sure you save your project again. So once the file is saved, then we can go back to the projects page in the top left here. And we'll have to delete the project that we had put on previously and move the now updated version onto the device. So first, just select your device. If all of these are selected, then just deselect those. And you just choose these three dots below and you'll see the delete option. So I'm going to delete this old one that we had here, and I'm going to choose the test2 again, but it's now updated, and I'm going to move it onto my device. So once it's uploaded, then again you can make sure that it says play on start, and it should be now updated and playing on your LEDs. So thank you for listening. If you have any questions, please feel free to email us.